If you'd asked me 3 months ago if I trusted my wife, I'd have said yes, without blinking. And I would have meant it. I would have meant it like how you trust the sun to rise or your mom's lasagna to be slightly too salty but still comforting. But now? Now I sip my morning coffee like I'm defusing a bomb, one eye on the screen, one eye on the door, because in this house, the biggest explosions come wrapped in ring lights and hashtagged captions. See, my wife, brand partner, and life collaborator, is what you'd call a mid-tier influencer. Not quite famous, not quite obscure. The sweet spot where sponsors will still send you free makeup and fancy snacks, but you're just anonymous enough to cheat without making TMZ. Her name's Crystal. Yeah, with a K. We met before the clout. Back when she was just Crystal with a K from Kenosha. We both worked retail at the same Apple store. I was the quiet dude who fixed people's cracked iPhones, and she was the girl in the front who could sell a charging cable to a guy holding 5 already. She had that shine, even back then, like a neon sign that didn't blink. Fast forward 5 years and she's got 500,000 followers, a skincare line no one really uses, and a public persona that somehow manages to be both quirky and profound. Meanwhile, I stayed behind the scenes literally. I shot most of her videos. I edited the reels. I picked the music. I knew her angles better than she did. And maybe that was the problem. Maybe I was too useful to leave, but not interesting enough to love. The trip, that was the first clue something was off. She called it a mental reset, said she needed a solo journey to reconnect with her audience. Reconnect with herself. All the usual influencer jargon, bundled together with a high-pitched "Babe, don't be like that," when I raised an eyebrow. I didn't fight her on it. I wasn't supposed to. That was kind of our thing. I'd be the chill, supportive husband who understood creator burnout. Bali's calling, she said, throwing bikinis and turmeric supplements into a pastel suitcase. Bali. She said it like it was a person, like a spiritual cousin who owned a hammock and made ceremonial tea. Thing is, I didn't even care where she went. I just wanted her to come back better. She hadn't been herself in months. Or maybe she had been herself, and I just hadn't seen it until now. That's the part that messes with your head, when the red flags don't show up in real time, only in the playback. She left on a Thursday. By Friday, the first picture went up. Her in a straw hat on a beach, captioned, "Healing isn't linear, herb sun airplane, #Bali vibes, #solo reset." Looked nice enough. Filtered, obviously. Same warm LUT she uses on all her travel shots, sand to orange, sky to teal. But I scrolled past something that snagged my attention. You know when a movie has that tiny goof in the background, a guy holding a Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones, or a crew member reflected in a mirror? That kind of thing. In her selfie, behind her, just barely visible in the upper right corner, a billboard. A billboard that read, "Chicago Traffic Update, sponsored by WZRT 97.5. Cute, right? Now, I'm not a genius, but I do have eyes. And last I checked, Bali wasn't known for Midwest FM radio or morning congestion reports. I screenshotted it. Didn't say a word. I figured maybe, just maybe, it was an old photo she was reposting. Influencers do that all the time. But the caption said, "Today," and I knew Crystal. She was all about authenticity, or at least the kind that made her ad deals look genuine. So I pulled up the raw file. That's when the real punch landed. She had airdropped the photo to our shared iPad the day before, something she must have forgotten. And with that came the EXIF data, the juicy little metadata that tells you when and where a photo was taken. Timestamp, Thursday, 3:43 p.m. Location, Chicago. So either Bali had relocated to Illinois, or my wife was lying straight through her influencer teeth. I didn't confront her. Not right away. Instead, I smiled. Poured another cup of coffee. Because I'd been waiting for a reason, just one clean, undeniable reason, to stop being her tech lackey and start being the guy who presses record when the world collapses. It was the next post that clinched it. She was hiking through sacred rice fields, according to her story. Except I could hear something under her narration. You had to listen real close, beneath the faux-in ukulele music. It was the CTA. A train. A Chicago train. She'd filmed it on mute and added audio later, probably didn't even notice the screech of the blue line in the background. I did. Because I used to take that train every day. So she was in Chicago, not Bali. The question was, why lie? I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't matter. It's always the same story, right? That's when I remembered the dumbest, most beautiful mistake she ever made. She signed into her fitness app on my tablet 6 months ago when her phone was dead. She never signed out. So I pulled it up. And there it was. A cute little pink icon bouncing around the West Loop. And oh, look, she was burning 400 calories every evening at the same address. A cozy little Airbnb with 5-star reviews for privacy and discreet entry. I clicked on the listing. The pictures showed a minimalist apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and a Peloton bike. My blood went cold. Because in one of her stories, yes, her Bali stories, she'd posted a boomerang of her beach workout. And guess what was in the background? A Peloton. With the exact same water bottle holder that I had just seen on that Airbnb's page. She hadn't even left town. She was 15 minutes away, playing yoga goddess in someone else's sheets while 500,000 people sent her heart emojis. The final cherry on top? Her fitness app logged her heart rate. Every night. Around 10:45 p.m. Let's just say her cardio had spikes. I closed the app. I smiled. And I started planning. Because if Crystal wanted to live on camera, fine. I'd give her the greatest performance of her career. I'd just be the one holding the camera. And when the credits rolled, so would her brand, her sponsors, her fans, everyone. But first, I needed footage. And I had just the plan. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I just confront her? See, that's the rookie move. The loud argument. The slammed doors. The how could you? Routine. It gets you nowhere. She'd spin it, cry on TikTok, and 2 days later her followers would be sending her gift cards and calling me emotionally abusive. No thanks. I wasn't interested in closure. I was interested in evidence. Concrete, humiliating, career-ending evidence. The kind that gets clipped and shared by drama channels. So, I got to work. First, I booked a rental car. Nothing fancy, just a plain white sedan with tinted windows and a clean dash. I didn't need flash. I needed silence. Stealth. A rolling blind spot. I parked it 2 blocks away from the Airbnb she was frequenting, close enough to see, far enough to not get spotted. And I waited. I know. Creepy, right? But in today's world, nothing's creepier than getting away with betrayal. That's the real horror movie. What I was doing was just the surveillance phase of a story about to go viral. She showed up at 6:37 p.m. wearing the same flowy white dress she'd posted on Instagram the day before, captioned Sunset Rituals in Uluwatu Woman Lotus Position Yellow Heart #Bali Nights. Funny, because that sunset? I checked, it wasn't even cloudy in Chicago that night. She must have slapped a golden filter on a 7 p.m. streetlight and called it paradise. I had my camera rolling, a DSLR, long lens, high res. She entered through the side door like she'd done it 100 times. No hesitation. No checking over her shoulder. That part almost hurt. Almost. But not enough to make me stop. 20 minutes later, the door opened again. Out came the guy. Tall. Tan. Built like a Peloton instructor and cocky enough to make my blood itch. And of course, because the universe has a sense of humor, he was. A Peloton instructor, I mean. Nick. Yeah, I knew who he was. He was the one Crystal always talked about when we worked out together at home. The one whose classes motivated her. The one she DM'd after workouts to thank him for the playlist. Real motivational stuff. Like, you kept me panting all night, grinning face with sweat fire. Guess she wasn't lying. They didn't leave together. She stayed behind while he jogged off, probably to another session. Or another wife. These guys always keep a tight rotation. But that's fine. I wasn't after him. I needed her. In the act. Looking guilty. I kept filming. Kept compiling. Each night she visited, I recorded. Each time she posted a fake Bali pic, I cross-referenced the timestamp. And each time, I got another slice of her lie neatly framed and in focus. I'd built a folder labeled Karma. Inside it, a masterpiece. Her slipping into the building. Her stepping out in sweats after sunrise yoga. A screenshot of her post that claimed she meditated near an ancient river shrine. A voice recording I captured from the sidewalk, her laughing, unmistakably, saying, God, I haven't had this much fun since pre-marriage. Yeah, it was all in there. Now, here's the fun part. Crystal had a brand deal lined up the following week, her biggest yet. A luxury beauty brand was hosting a live stream with multiple influencers, all tuning in from their dream getaways. The theme was authenticity and healing. Each guest was expected to share their location, tell a story about how their travel changed them, and plug 3 new skin products. Crystal was going to be live from Bali, of course. Except she'd still be in Chicago. In that same borrowed Airbnb with the fake greenery and a ring light she left set up by the window. She didn't know I knew that. And she definitely didn't know I had admin access to her YouTube channel. Now, before you go thinking I hacked her, relax. We co-managed the channel. I set it up. I edited every video. She just smiled and talked. I was the engine. She was the bumper sticker. So when she scheduled her Bali livestream, guess who had access to the back end? Yep, yours truly. She planned it for 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. At 7:45, I uploaded my video. Not to her main feed. Not right away. I set it as a live stream trailer. You know, the little preview that plays when people are waiting for the main event to begin. Meant to build hype. Set the mood. What I uploaded. A 4-minute sizzle reel. No music. No narration. Just cold, hard footage. Cut 1. Crystal entering the Airbnb, timestamped. Cut 2. A split screen on the left, her Instagram story of her temple hike, and on the right, the security footage of her waiting for an Uber in the West Loop wearing the same outfit. Cut 3. Her voice, caught on tape, whispering something to Nick about glad we're doing this behind his back. And then, a final screen. White text. Black background. This is not Bali. This is Chicago. This is the truth. Then it cut to her live stream, which hadn't started yet, just the waiting room with 20,000 people already tuned in, flooding the chat with WTF and is this real? I sat back, cracked open a LaCroix, watched it burn. At 8 o'clock sharp, she went live. I swear, the look on her face was Oscar-worthy. Her lighting was perfect. Her hair curled just right. And her smile? Bulletproof. For about 5 seconds. Because then she saw the chat. You ever watch someone try to figure out if they're being publicly executed in real time? It's a fascinating dance. Her eyes flicked to the corner. She squinted. She tapped something off camera, probably her laptop. And then her jaw twitched. Just a little. The sponsor's rep came on screen. A polished woman named Jeanette with the kind of resting expression you see in HR departments and interrogation rooms. Crystal, she said. Before we begin, can you confirm your current location? Crystal blinked. Bali, she said. Jeanette nodded. That's strange, she replied, and clicked something on her end. The live stream split. On the right, Crystal. On the left, my video. Playing again. Live. Crystal's mic cut out, but you could still see her lips moving. She was panicking, trying to speak, trying to explain, but Jeanette didn't flinch. Crystal, due to violations of our ethics agreement and concerns around influencer transparency, she said, we'll be ending our partnership effective immediately. And just like that click, stream over. 20,000 people still watching. 500 screen recordings already circulating. I shut my laptop, let out a long breath. That was phase 2. Reputation damage? Complete. Phase 3? Well, that one's going to be a little more personal. A little quieter. A little more permanent. Because now it's not about revenge. It's about freedom. And I just found the perfect way to disappear. The morning after the live stream wasn't quiet. You'd think it would be that sort of numb silence people talk about in movies, where the betrayed man sits in his living room drinking black coffee while the world moves on without him. But nope. My phone buzzed nonstop. Friends. Strangers. Influencer T-pages tagging me in their stories. Someone even messaged me a meme of Crystal's Bali face with the caption, Namaste and lie. That one actually made me laugh out loud. It was the first time I'd laughed in weeks. She, on the other hand, went dark. No new posts. No stories. Not even a grid photo. Which, for her, was like dropping off the face of the earth. That woman could sprain an ankle and post it in 5 separate slides with a promo code for aloe gel. But now? Nothing. Except for the voicemails. Babe, I need to talk to you. Please don't shut me out. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. You have to believe me. I messed up. We both did, I guess. But you going nuclear? Really? It always circles back, doesn't it? From, I love you to we both did this in under 48 hours. I didn't respond. I didn't even listen to the rest. I just started building my next move. See, revenge online is easy. It's flashy. Public. But freedom? Real freedom? That requires paperwork. And timing. So, I started laying bricks. First, I lawyered up. A friend of mine from college, Tony, handles media contracts and divorce law. Good guy. Built like a linebacker but reads like a poet. We hadn't talked in years, but when I texted him with a brief, hey, I'm getting divorced. You want to make this fun? He replied in 30 seconds flat. On it. What's the angle? I sent him everything. Screenshots, timestamps, the live stream footage, even the fake Bali itinerary she emailed me when she left. He whistled through the phone. Damn. She really brought a flamethrower to a bonfire. She brought her own gas, I replied. I just gave it oxygen. We moved fast. Crystal and I never signed a prenup, mostly because she hadn't made real money yet when we got married, and I was too in love to think like a businessman. Rookie mistake. But now? Now she was raking in 5 figures a month off sponsors and ad revenue, and suddenly, her platform had a major asterisk next to it. Tony's plan was simple. Hit her with everything. Adultery, reputation damage, and asset concealment. She'd been using our joint account to pay for the Airbnb under a burner name. I had the statements. Tony called it voluntary career suicide with paper trails. I called it finally having leverage. And then there was the house. It was under my name. Bought it with money from my inheritance before we tied the knot. She wanted to split it for fairness, even though she hadn't paid a single mortgage bill in 3 years. Tony laughed. She wants half of your property after pretending to be on another continent? Yeah. Audacity's on sale this week. Next step? I deleted myself. Well, not literally. But I wiped everything that connected us. I logged out of our shared streaming apps. Canceled her access to the credit cards. Removed her from the Google Calendar, our shared meal delivery plans, the Amazon Prime account, everything. If she wanted to live alone, she was about to feel it. The cherry on top? I changed the Wi-Fi name to Not in Bali, and the password to should have stayed single. Petty? Absolutely. But earned. By Monday, Crystal had surfaced again. This time via email. To me. Subject, please let's talk. I know what I did was wrong. I know you're angry. But there's more going on than you think. Nick. He wasn't supposed to mean anything. It just happened. I felt like you weren't seeing me anymore. You were always behind the camera, never in front of it. I lost myself, but I don't want to lose us. Please, can we meet and talk? Just once. No cameras. No tricks. Asterisk. Funny how people who live for the spotlight always ask for privacy when the light flips on them. I didn't reply. Instead, I booked a lunch appointment with her sponsor. Yep, the one that dropped her during the live stream. They had my contact from the old business contracts, and after the scandal, someone named Claire reached out to me asking if I'd be willing to consult on future projects. Claire was smart, calm, the type who sipped espresso while watching brands implode, then hired the people who lit the match. I want to offer you something, she said as we sat across from each other in a cafe that smelled like fresh croissants and quiet judgment. Oh, you're good at telling stories. Real ones. Ones that don't need a filter. I blinked. Are you offering me a sponsorship? She smiled. I'm offering you a content role. On camera. Behind it. Up to you. But you clearly know how to handle a narrative. And that has value. Let me tell you, nothing heals betrayal quite like a paycheck on the back end of your ex's downfall. I told her I'd think about it. Crystal, meanwhile, was spiraling. She tried texting my sister. She messaged my college roommate. She even met my barber, asking if he'd seen me around. One night, I caught her sitting outside the house in her car. Lights off. Just parked there. I watched through the blinds. She didn't knock. Didn't get out. Just sat in the dark, probably trying to decide if she should come up and make one last dramatic speech. She didn't. She left. The next morning, I filed the divorce papers. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because somewhere out there, Nick was still running his classes, pretending he hadn't just blown up a marriage. Still posting motivational crap like earn your sweat. Own your truth. It was time someone made sure he got a taste, too. See, Crystal wasn't Nick's only married client. And I had footage. Names. DMs. A burner email account. The story was about to get a sequel. Because revenge? It's best served viral. And I was just warming up. If there's one thing I've learned from watching this influencer hellscape from the back seat, it's this. People don't just crave drama. They crave consequences. They want to know the villain doesn't just get caught. They want to know their world unravels like an overpriced silk dress in a wind tunnel. Crystal? She was already halfway to tatters. But Nick? Oh, Nick was just getting started. Now I didn't know the guy personally, and God willing I never will. But I'd seen his face enough on my wife's suggested for you feed to feel like we shared a dentist. He was one of those guys who turned 5 years of gym selfies into a lifestyle brand. Former CrossFit bro turned mindful movement guru. Hosted live stream classes called Sweat with Purpose, offered overpriced retreats to Costa Rica where participants got to reset their masculine polarity, or whatever the hell that means. And married. That was the best part. Yep. Had a whole post up last year celebrating 10 years with my rock ring #power couple. Thing is, I remember that post. Because Crystal had commented on it. I looked it up again. Sure enough, still there. You two are goals fire sparkles. Irony so thick, it could bench press itself. I wasn't planning to torch Nick's life just for kicks. But when you willingly become the side dish to someone else's marriage and lie about it on camera, yeah, that's when I bring out the rotisserie. The fun started with a little recon. Thanks to Crystal's old influencer group chats, which she forgot to delete off our synced iCloud, I found out Nick's wife, let's call her Danielle, handled his brand logistics. Basically, she scheduled his collabs, managed his merch store, and responded to fans who DM'd asking for custom programs, which, by the way, were just repackaged PDFs with different colors. I figured if anyone deserved the truth, it was her. So I made a folder, just like I had with Crystal. I titled it, Nick's Real Workout Plan. Inside, the full saga. Timestamped video of Crystal entering and leaving the Airbnb. Screenshots of flirty DMs between her and Nick. Yes, she'd screen recorded them for receipts, probably thinking she'd use them if he ever ghosted. Voice messages. And get this, one of them literally ended with, "Don't worry, Danny never checks my personal inbox." Cute. I zipped the folder, uploaded it to a secure link, then drafted an email to Danielle@sweatwithnick.com. Subject, something you should probably know. Hi Danielle. You don't know me, but I think you deserve to. This isn't about jealousy or revenge, just truth. The kind your husband's been hiding from you. I've attached some documentation. I didn't edit it, didn't filter it, didn't monetize it. What you do next is your call. Sincerely. A guy who knows what it's like to get lied to by someone who says namaste after cheating. Asterisk. I hit send. Then I shut my laptop and took myself to brunch. Because nothing pairs with burning lives to the ground quite like Eggs Benedict and bottomless coffee refills. That email must have landed hard. Because 12 hours later, Nick's Sweat with Purpose Instagram account went from active to poof. The next day, Danielle posted a now-deleted IG story. To the women who message my husband, don't. To the husbands who find out, don't stay silent. To the brands watching, I'm fine. I'm free. He's not our brand anymore. Game. Set. Divorce attorney. Later, I got an anonymous DM from a burner account that read, "Guess you think you're a hero or something. You messed with the wrong people." The account's name? At Wokan Ripnik. God, he even made his threat sound like a Whole Foods label. Anyway, the dominoes kept falling. Crystal, meanwhile, still hadn't figured out how much farther she could fall. She made one sad little comeback attempt, a 7-minute YouTube video titled, My Side of the Story Broken Heart. Of course it opened with her crying under soft lighting, surrounded by white candles and a box of tissues that was suspiciously turned label out. You know, for branding. I never meant to hurt anyone, she whispered. I was lost. I felt abandoned. And Nick, he made me feel seen. I swear, if the camera had zoomed out any farther, I'm pretty sure it would have revealed a full teleprompter and a scented oil diffuser working overtime. She ended with the classic move. I'm going to take some time offline to reflect and heal. Translation. My sponsors dropped me and now I'm trying to figure out how to sell detox tea to women over 40. She deleted the video 2 days later. Not because of me, I never said a word. Not once. I let her drown in her own honesty. Or lack thereof. The real twist came a week later. I got a call from my building manager. Hey. Your wife's here. I corrected. Right. She said she left something important in the apartment. Wants to come up. Now, we hadn't lived together since the live stream meltdown. But technically, she still had a few toiletries and maybe a couple pairs of heels in the closet. Nothing worth breaking and entering over. She with anyone? Nope. Just her. Looks like she's been crying. I paused. Then said, tell her I moved out. There was a silence on the other end. You didn't. I did. Lease ended yesterday. New place, new number, new life. He whistled. Man, you really vanished. Yeah, I said, cracking open a soda. That was the point. And it was true. I'd packed everything a few days earlier, just essentials. Left behind all the old gifts, the shared decor, the pastel nonsense she used to scatter around like fairy dust. I'd closed our joint accounts, signed the divorce documents, and handed the last box to the movers like I was clocking out from a long, unpaid internship in someone else's fantasy. But I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't even mad. I was unsubscribed. The new apartment was smaller, sure, but it was mine. No ring lights. No curated gallery wall of fake memories. Just me, a fridge full of leftovers, and a desk by the window with actual sunlight. No filters. No more pretending. And as for what's next? Let's just say that meeting with Claire, the brand rep, wasn't a one-time thing. They offered me a deal. Not to be an influencer, hell no, but to produce content. Real stories. Raw stories. The kind that don't rely on facials and fake laughter. I took the gig. Already working on my first series. Tentative title? Exposed. Stories from behind the filter. And the first episode? Well, you already know it. You just read it. And trust me, I'm just getting started. If you told me a month ago that I'd be the one on camera, not Crystal, I would have laughed you out of the room. Me? The behind-the-scenes guy? The tripod whisperer? Nah, that was never the plan. But there's something funny about betrayal. Not funny, haha, but funny like how quiet it gets right before a storm tears your life to splinters. You don't come out the other side of something like that wanting to return to normal. You come out looking for a new story, one where you're not the background noise. And that's what I'd become, a narrator. Not just for Crystal's life, but for everyone who ever watched her channel and thought, wow, her husband must be so lucky. Yeah, lucky. Like a deer caught in a ring light. So I started shooting. Real stories, raw ones. About betrayal. About image. About what it means when someone builds a brand on love and then torches it for an extra 20,000 followers and a couple of burner phone rendezvous. The first episode of my new series dropped a week after I moved out of the apartment. It wasn't flashy. Just me. A black hoodie. A simple setup. A white backdrop that cost $39.99 on Amazon. No promo code. I titled it Episode 1. The hashtag was a lie. The description was simple. What happens when your soulmate turns out to be better at editing lies than living truth? Let me tell you a story. I expected maybe a few thousand views. Maybe a couple pity comments. Instead, it exploded. People didn't just watch. They responded. With their own stories. Husbands, wives, exes, even a few influencers who said, I knew her. I knew something was off. One guy commented, bro, you just turned heartbreak into a TED Talk with teeth. I pinned that one. It hit a nerve because it wasn't performative. There was no apology tour, no redemption arc. Just truth. The kind you can't monetize. The kind that costs you everything and still feels like a discount. By the end of the week, I had 80,000 subscribers. Crystal stayed silent, which was probably smart, because the internet was already eating her alive, and anything she said now would only add seasoning. But the past has a way of sending postcards, even when you're not home anymore. And that's how I found out about her newest rebrand. I got tagged in a post on a gossip forum. Someone had screen recorded Crystal's private live stream from her backup page. She was crying again, of course. That was her thing now. Emotionally raw. No makeup. Unfiltered and starting over. The title of the live stream? Rebuilding After Ruin. Give her points for alliteration, I guess. She talked for 20 minutes. Apologized to her fans, not to me, mind you, just to the algorithm. Said she'd made mistakes and forgot who she was. Then she dropped the real kicker, a new content series. Crystal clear. Yup, that's what she called it. A Docuvlog journey into her healing process. Morning routines. Daily reflections. Crystals, not just herself, but the rocks. Because of course. And at the end of the stream, she said the quiet part out loud. I just hope, maybe one day, he'll forgive me. Maybe even be a part of this journey. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. See, there it was. Not an apology. Not regret. A pitch. She wasn't mourning me. She was auditioning for a reconciliation arc, something she could spin into a redemption playlist with acoustic background music and a 30% off code for collagen powder. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I started writing the next episode. Because while she was busy filming her yoga mat confessionals, I was interviewing other people. Real people. Ones who'd also been chewed up and spat out by content. An ex-boyfriend of a mommy vlogger who faked their entire breakup for views. A guy whose fiancée live-streamed their proposal twice to get the lighting right, then dumped him off camera a week later. Their stories weren't polished. They weren't brand safe. But they were real. And they were sick of pretending. And somehow, I became the guy they trusted to tell it. Look, I never wanted to be a creator. I liked my life simple, quiet. But when the mask falls off the person you thought loved you, and all you see underneath is pixels and hashtags, you've got two choices. You either unplug, or you film the truth. I chose the latter, and it was paying off. Sponsors, real ones, started reaching out. Not beauty brands, not detox junk, but legit production companies. A podcast network offered me a series. A documentary filmmaker asked if I wanted to collab. The best offer came from a streaming platform. They wanted a short-run documentary series. Working title, Behind the Filter. 6 episodes. 1-hour format. Full creative control. And guess what episode 1 was going to be? That's right. My story. Crystal's story. Except this time, I wouldn't be behind the camera. I'd be front and center. And the twist? Crystal signed the release form. She had to, not because I asked her directly, but because I own partial rights to all our shared footage from the last 3 years. She signed it 2 years ago, buried in the brand contracts I drew up. She never read them. Too busy checking her lighting. Too busy editing her soul out of the frame. She had no idea I could legally use the videos we made together. Every fake, relationship goals, clip. Every sponsored beach kiss. Every heartfelt confession filmed just off the edge of reality. And now? Now they were mine to tell. Re-edit. Reframed. Honest. The producers called it cinematic truth. I just called it overdue. When I emailed Crystal to inform her of the upcoming project, I didn't rub it in. Didn't gloat. I kept it clean. *K. Just a heads up, you may see some clips from our shared content repurposed for an upcoming docuseries. I've reviewed the contracts you signed, and all usage is within bounds. There's nothing defamatory. No exaggeration. Just facts. I hope you find healing. Me*. She didn't respond. But 2 hours later, I got a notification. Crystal has permanently deleted her main account. That night, I sat in my new place. No ring lights. No pastel throw pillows. Just me, a pizza box, and a glass of whiskey. I watched the final cut of episode 1. The editor nailed it. Slow dissolves. Muted colors. Honest narration. The moment where I said she was chasing a version of herself that didn't exist was the one that hit hardest. Because that wasn't just about Crystal. That was about all of us. We all play pretend sometimes. But some people, they turn pretend into a personality. And when that crashes, well, it makes one hell of a story. Only one part left now. The ending. And trust me, it's a good one. The series went live at midnight. 6 episodes. 1 season. One hell of a climax. Behind the Filter dropped like a truth bomb wrapped in velvet, cinematic, intimate, and about as far from influencer fluff as you could get without hiring a hitman. In the first 3 hours, it trended on every major platform. By the time I woke up, my inbox looked like a war zone. Journalists, sponsors, fan mail, hate mail, and a few people claiming they always knew Crystal was fake, but were just too scared to say anything. Funny how bravery always shows up after the cameras start rolling. I watched the final episode that morning like a regular viewer, coffee in hand, legs kicked up on my second-hand couch, the same one Crystal once called ugly vintage before she covered it in expensive throw blankets she never actually sat on. Episode 6 was titled, Truth Doesn't Need a Filter. It opened on me, same hoodie, same white backdrop. The only thing different was the look in my eyes. Not sad. Not angry. Just done. The kind of done that doesn't mean defeated. The kind that means free. The first 10 minutes showed the unraveling. Her live stream scandal, the brand collapse, the fallout with Nick, the deleted accounts. It was all edited with surgical calm. No need for dramatic music or slow zooms. Just facts. The truth in 4K. Then came the part that made my jaw clench, even though I'd written the script myself. The footage. Old stuff. Our stuff. From the early days. Clips I hadn't seen in years. Her laugh, unfiltered. Us cooking together. Her trying to prank me with flour and slipping on the tile. Me catching her. Real laughter. Pre-brand. Pre-hashtag us. And then, the footage from after. Her fake crying videos, redone 3 times for different angles. This spontaneous couple moment, we'd scripted 5 times because her eyeliner smudged. The travel shots that weren't where they claimed to be. That sunrise in Tulum was actually a hike in Wisconsin. That morning coffee in Paris was our balcony in Detroit with a white sheet and a Photoshop sky. And in between those clips, my voiceover. At some point, I stopped being her partner and became her production crew. And the scariest part? I didn't even notice. Because the lie was so pretty. It looked like love. It smelled like connection. But it was just content with a heartbeat. By the 30-minute mark, I was getting texts from numbers I didn't recognize. This hit harder than any podcast I've heard in years. Dude, I saw my own relationship in your footage. Thank you. You didn't just expose your wife. You exposed the whole damn system. But the best one came from a number I hadn't saved, yet I recognized it instantly. Crystal. All it said was, I finally watched it. I didn't cry this time. I just saw it. I mean, really saw it. You didn't destroy me. You freed me. I just didn't know it yet. I hope you find what you were looking for. I wasn't it. And I'm sorry it took a camera to prove that. No period at the end. Typical. And no, I didn't reply. Because there was nothing left to say. She finally told the truth quietly, without hashtags. That was all I ever wanted. Now here's the thing no one talks about when you get revenge this clean. You don't feel triumphant. You don't feel like a winner. You just feel whole. Like your bones finally remembered what it was like before you started twisting yourself into someone else's vision board. The finale ended with one last shot. Me walking away from the old apartment building, duffel over my shoulder, no soundtrack, no dramatic lighting, just footsteps on wet pavement. And my voice one last time. When someone builds a life around a lie, telling the truth isn't destruction. It's mercy. For them. For you. For everyone still pretending. The lie always looks better in a frame. But the truth? The truth walks free. Cut to black. The credits rolled. And then it was done. 2 days later, Claire, the producer, called. Her voice crackled through my earbuds while I cleaned out the last of the storage unit Crystal used to hoard content props. Things like fake travel postcards, faux passports, a damn inflatable flamingo that had its own Instagram page. You ready for the numbers? She asked. No, I said, tossing a sequin dress into the donation bin. But go ahead. 6 million views in 48 hours. Platform's biggest drop this quarter. We've got networks bidding on syndication. And wait for it, your segment on The Morning Lens next week just got moved to lead interview. I exhaled. You don't sound thrilled, she said. I'm not unthrilled, I replied. I'm just tired of performing. Claire paused. You weren't performing. You were testifying. That line stuck with me all day. Because that's what it had become. Not a takedown. Not revenge porn. A testimony. And while Crystal faded out of public memory like a trending topic people got bored of, I stayed. Not as a content creator. As a narrator of the real. I didn't monetize my trauma. I mapped it. For others to follow. For others to see themselves in. For people stuck behind filters they didn't even put on. And yeah, I dated again. Nothing serious. Mostly coffee, sometimes dinner. But I told the truth up front. I'm not shiny. I don't have a grit aesthetic. I don't light my living room like a crate and barrel catalog. But I show up. And I don't lie. Not anymore. The very last message I got from Crystal came 6 weeks after the series aired. It was an old-school letter. Handwritten. No emojis. No hashtags. Just ink on paper. She said she was moving. Deleting the rest of her accounts. Going off-grid to figure out who she was when no one was watching. I folded the letter. Put it in a drawer I don't open much. Not out of spite. Out of peace. Because for the first time in years, I had nothing left to say. No edits to make. No footage to review. No apologies to script. I wasn't the guy behind the lens anymore. I wasn't the betrayed husband in someone else's love story. I was just a man. Standing in the truth. And that, as it turns out, was enough. Subscribe to the channel